On my birthday, my fiancé wrote me a note that read, "I found someone better." I didn't say a word, just left them, made my move, and now they are begging. Hey everyone, I need your help before we start today's video. We can see that the channel isn't getting as much attention as it used to, and one of the best ways you can help us is by subscribing. It's free, quick, and it helps us keep making great stuff for you. Your help means everything. Let's work together to make this channel bigger. Thanks a lot. Let's begin the video now. Hello, Reddit. This happened 6 months ago. In a few months, I would be getting married. Life may change so quickly. One minute you're choosing a place to meet, and the next you're planning revenge. Put on your seatbelt. This one looks bad. I'm a 36-year-old man who works as a civil engineer for a medium-sized company. And until recently, he was engaged to a 31-year-old woman named Andrea. We had been together for 4 years, and for 3 of those years we lived at my house. After my dad died, I bought the house. He left me enough money for a good down payment on a 3-bedroom house in a good neighborhood. It's not extravagant, but the mortgage is easy to pay and the yard is big enough for the dog I've always wanted but never got since Andrea said she was allergic. I came from a family of blue-collar workers. He worked as a plumber. Mom worked as a secretary at a school. They worked hard to get me into engineering school. Dad always drove a '89 Chevy Silverado that he took care of himself. When I was 12, they taught me how to change the oil. I still drive my 2010 Tacoma, which I bought secondhand with 80,000 miles on it. Andrea always said it was too old and not professional enough for client meetings, but I wouldn't go into debt for a prestige symbol. 5 years ago, when my dad died of a heart attack, I told myself that I would make the most of the chance he gave me. I thought I was all set when I got the job, the house, and met Andrea at a friend's wedding. Andrea sells drugs and makes about $85,000 a year plus commission. We were doing great together. Not wealthy, yet at ease. The wedding was set for the summer of next year. Already paid $4,000 in deposits. Her parents were paying for most of it, but we were giving what we could. Things weren't going well and there were signs. Like when I got promoted last year and took her out to celebrate. Instead of saying congratulations, she spent the whole dinner inquiring if I would get a company car or an expense account. She just responded, "Oh," and shifted the conversation when I said no. Like the time I came home with groceries and she went crazy because I purchased store-brand cereal instead of the organic stuff she wanted. It escalated into an hour-long fight about how I never listen and don't care about her health over cereal. Things started to change 6 months ago. Andrea had more client dinners. She would come home late smelling like cologne and say it was from saying goodbye to clients. I would often find restaurant receipts that I knew we couldn't afford. When I brought it up, she would become angry and allege that I was trying to control her money. Then there's Joseph, my friend from college. He works at the hospital where Andrea has a lot of patients. He started acting strange around me, like canceling our weekly basketball games and not looking me in the eye when we did hang out. Should have noticed the indications. Last month was my birthday. I took the day off to stay home and relax with my cat, Max. 3 years ago, I got him from a shelter. A one-eyed orange tabby that Andrea put up with but never liked. Since the day I brought Max home, he had been following me around the house like a good boy. Andrea put on a big show that morning as I was preparing coffee and gave me a wrapped present. She kissed me on the cheek swiftly and added, "Don't open it until tonight. I have a dinner meeting with the regional director, but I'll be home by 10 o'clock and we'll celebrate." I nodded and put it away. Another meeting? Whatever. I was sitting on the couch with Max purring on my lap around 8 p.m. when I decided to go ahead and open it. There was a black sweatshirt with the emblem of our favorite band on it inside. It's nice enough. There was a little card. "Look in the pocket." I pulled out a folded piece of paper from my pocket. This time, no receipt. A note to say goodbye. "I can't do this anymore, Victor. The house, the wedding, and everything else we had planned for the future. I don't want it. I met someone who made me feel alive again. I'll have already moved my important items out by the time you read this. I'll grab the rest later. I'm sorry it had to end like this. That easily. 4 years in a pocket note on my birthday. I held that note for what felt like hours, but it was actually only minutes. I was running through my thoughts, trying to put together all the indications I had missed. The late nights, the sudden work trips, the way she guarded her phone, and the fact that she had provoked fights over nothing, perhaps to make herself feel better about what she was doing. 2 weeks ago, when her coworker drove up in a new BMW, she made a backhanded joke about my truck. "Maybe one day we'll get something from this decade," she remarked with a giggle, putting her arm through mine like it was just a joke. Her coworker had smirked, and I felt like I was back in high school, being judged and found wanting. I called her and left a message, but she didn't answer. I went into our bedroom and saw that the closet door was open. She was missing half of her garments. She couldn't find her jewelry box. Max was rubbing against my leg as I sat on the side of the bed. There was at least one faithful person in this residence. I opened a soda and sat on the couch, staring at the walls. That's when I thought of something. The cloud account we all share. I took my laptop and logged in. Jackpot. Andrea wasn't very good with technology. She didn't know that her phone was automatically sending our photo backup to the cloud. There they were. There are a lot of images of her with a tall, gym-built guy in a fancy suit in a restaurant, in a cabin, and on a boat. Going by the timestamps, this had been going on for at least 4 months. And there, hidden away in a folder called Weekend Getaway, was a picture that made me so upset. Andrea and this guy are standing in front of my car. I let her borrow it because her lease was up, and they are plainly using it to get away for the weekend. I looked more closely and found backups of text messages. Dorian was the name of the guy. He worked at the hospital where she made sales calls. Normal. The texts made me sick. She told him how bored she was with me and how she couldn't wait to start her true life with him once she worked out how to leave me without any problems. At that point, my phone rang. Joseph texted me, "Dude, I need to talk to you. It's important." I called him right away. "What's up?" There was a long silence. "I've been seeing Andrea with someone at the hospital a lot," I replied bluntly. "I didn't know how to tell you, Dorian." "Yeah. When did you first see them?" Joseph grumbled. "About 3 months ago in the cafeteria. They were pretty close. I thought maybe it was just a work thing at first. Then last month, I saw them in the parking garage kissing. I've been trying to figure out how to tell you. Why didn't you say something sooner?" I tried to keep the anger out of my voice. She saw me watching them that day, came to my office later and said if I told you, she'd tell HR I was harassing her. I could lose my job, man. I've got the twins and Jen to support. I was gonna tell you anyway. I was working up to it, but I'm sorry. It's not your fault. She's gone now anyway. Left me a note on my birthday. Jesus Christ. What are you going to do? I don't know yet, but I'll think of something. The next day, I called my dad's old friend, who's now my insurance agent, and canceled the wedding insurance policy. When I explained why, he just sighed. "Son, I've got to call your dad's brother. He'll want to know." 2 hours later, my Uncle Paul was on my front porch with a 6-pack of drinks. Dad's favorite when he was alive. "Had to do this for your cousin Tyler last year," Paul said, handing me a drink. "Better a busted engagement than a busted marriage." We sat in silence for a while. "Your dad would have handled this the same way you are," Paul finally said. "Just quiet dignity and a clear head." Coming from him, that was the highest compliment possible. Speaking of handling it, I took a week off work to get some things done. First, I changed all the locks. Then I went through our finances. We had a joint account with about $12,000 in it, mostly my money from a recent bonus. I transferred it all to my personal account. Next, I called our wedding venue and photographer, explained the situation, and asked if I could transfer the deposits to my name only. The venue manager, Diane, was surprisingly understanding. Then, I put together a folder, screenshots of all the photos and texts I'd found, neatly organized by date. I wasn't sure what I'd do with it yet, but it's important to have ammunition. Every night that week, I stayed up until 2 or 3 a.m. digging deeper. I combed through hospital staff directories, cross-referencing faces until I found Dorian's profile. Chief neurosurgeon, Harvard Med, picture perfect. I created a spreadsheet tracking when Andrea's late meetings lined up with his surgery schedule. I found his LinkedIn, noting curious gaps in his employment history. I accessed Andrea's Instagram activity through our shared iPad and documented every interaction between them going back 6 months. On day 4, Andrea finally called. "Victor, we need to talk about the rest of my things." "No, hello, no. How are you?" "No. Sorry for leaving you a freaking note on your birthday. Your things are fine. I'll come by tomorrow around 6 o'clock to pick everything up. I changed the locks." "You what? You can't do that. Half that house is basically mine." I laughed. "Really? Your name isn't on the deed. It isn't on the mortgage. You've never paid a property tax bill or a homeowner's insurance premium. So, please tell me which half is yours." "We're engaged." "That makes it we were engaged. Past tense. Just like how you were faithful. You were honest. You were going to marry me. All past tense." She was silent for a moment. "This is so typical of you being technical instead of reasonable. You left me a breakup note in my birthday present and moved in with another man. Don't talk to me about reasonable. Fine, be that way. My dad will call you about this." She hung up. Her dad did call. The next day, Thomas Whitfield, Esquire, called to inform me that his daughter would be by with a police escort to collect her belongings, and that I should expect to hear from his lawyers about the house situation. "Mr. I added, Whitfield, before you start making threats, you should ask your daughter about the cloud account she shared with me, especially the folders from the Lakeside Inn in March and the weekend at your family cabin in April. I'm happy to share those files with Mrs. Whitfield if necessary." Long pause. "I'll call you back." He never did. But Andrea texted an hour later. "You're an a-hole. What time can I get my stuff?" We arranged for the following Saturday. She showed up with her younger sister, Clara, instead of Dorian. Smart move on his part. I'd spent the morning packing Andrea's things into black trash bags and cardboard boxes. When they pulled up, I was sitting on the front step, Max in my lap, not even looking in their direction. Clara had always been the opposite of Andrea. Quiet, bookish, actually genuine. She looked uncomfortable as she helped Andrea load boxes into her Range Rover. "Another gift from Daddy. Sorry about all this," she mumbled when Andrea was back inside. "Not your fault," I replied. She hesitated. "For what it's worth, I think she's making a huge mistake. Dorian's got a reputation. This isn't the first relationship he's wrecked." That was interesting. "Oh yeah, last year he did the same thing with a nurse. Left his fiancée for her, then dumped the nurse 3 months later when he got bored." She glanced toward the house. "But don't tell Andrea I said anything. She thinks this is some epic love story. Your secret's safe with me." After they left that night, Clara called. "You should know something, Victor. Andrea stole some things that didn't belong to her. I watched her put that signed baseball your dad gave you and the fine watch your grandfather gave you in a box." "Are you sure?" She said yes. "You kept the ring, so she should get something significant as well." I hadn't even thought about the engagement ring, which was a 2-carat diamond that cost me approximately $15,000, which was practically all of my savings at the time. I sat in my dad's old recliner, the one Andrea always disliked and wanted to throw away. After we hung up, I started to think about what to do next. The last straw was taking my family's heirlooms. It wasn't simply about a bad breakup anymore. I had to learn more about Dorian. Joseph was my way in, but I had to be careful because Andrea had threatened his employment. We met in a diner far away from the hospital where no one would know either of us. Joseph pushed a cup of coffee toward me and stated, "His full name is Dorian Chamberlain. A neurosurgeon in their early 40s, makes about 8. I don't think she cares. He drives a Maserati and wears tailored outfits. He has the entire 'I'm rich and important' look down. The hospital must really like him. That's what it is. They don't. He does a good job, but the administration doesn't like him very much. People have complained about how he handles nurses and how he talks to patients. There are even some allegations going around concerning prescription drugs. I can't really talk about things that are on prescription." Joseph spoke more quietly. "Let's just say that some drugs go missing when he's on duty. Nothing has been proven." I slowly nodded. "Is there anything more I need to know?" That's when Joseph informed me about a nurse named Stephanie. She said she used to go out with Dorian. Now she works in the ER. Moved on after they split up. He told me that she might have some interesting stories to tell. It wasn't hard to find Stephanie. A little social media snooping and a hospital directory. It was hard to get her to talk to me. I sat at the coffee shop across the street from the hospital and waited through 3 shift changes before I saw her in her profile picture. In her mid-30s, with blonde hair and a worn appearance. I walked over to her and asked if we could talk. Dorian Chamberlain. Her face quickly stiffened. I don't have anything nice to say about that jerk. He is with my fiancée now. Or ex-fiancé. That caught her eye. Let me guess, really. She is a nurse at the hospital. Salesperson? I nodded. Thought so. That's what he likes. Women that work with him and look up to him. Makes it easy to control them. She took her coffee. I shouldn't be talking about this in front of other people. I just want to know what I'm dealing with. Okay. 5 minutes. We sat at a table in the corner. She told me everything. How Dorian had chased her down while he was still married. He promised to break up with his fiancée. Then at last did. 3 months later, he was aloof and domineering. He even accused her of cheating when she worked late. When she finally asked him about the drugs she found in his locker, he said he would ruin her nursing career if she told anyone. She said, "The man is a narcissist and maybe an addict, but he's safe. His father is on the hospital board, so Andrea is just the latest in a long line of women." Exactly. He'll shower her with love, then throw her away when he gets bored or she finds out something she shouldn't. She leaned forward. I'd be thanking my lucky stars if I were you. I got away with that. Your ex helped you out. If you truly want to damage Dorian, go for his reputation. He cares about it all. She got up to go. Good luck and do yourself a favor. Don't try to tell her. People like that have to learn the hard way. My phone buzzed as Stephanie walked away. Thomas sent a text. Tomorrow at 2 p.m., meet me at the Riverfront Cafe. Come by yourself. Andrea's dad wanted to talk. This ought to be fun. I got to Riverfront Cafe 15 minutes early and picked a table in the corner with my back to the wall. A full view of the entrance. If you were to hire a corporate lawyer who made 7 figures, you would expect Thomas Whitfield to be just like him. A fancy suit, perfect gray hair, and the confident stance of someone who is used to scaring people. He walked with confidence until he saw me sitting there watching him come closer. Okay. He didn't spend any time. I'd like to talk about your proof and how we can work things out in a friendly way. The pictures and the texts. You mean the pictures of your daughter cheating on me for months? The texts where she talks about how to leave me without any trouble? Or the photos of them at your family's cabin? He shuddered a little when the cabin was brought up. I didn't know they were using the land. Well, it looks like they were pretty thorough from the pictures. He cleared his throat and looked around to be sure no one could hear us. What do you really want? She stole my father's signed baseball and my grandfather's watch when she moved out. That's all. And the $4,000 in wedding deposits that came out of my account. He agreed. I'll get your things back. By the end of the week, you'll have them. He was about to depart, but then he stopped. I don't think she handled this well, for what it's worth. We raised her better than that. I called after him as he went away. Tell Andrea that if anything else of mine goes missing, those pictures will go to your wife, your companions, and anybody else who would want them. A courier brought a delivery to my office 3 days later. The baseball, the watch, and a $4,000 cashier's check. There is no note. I didn't think there would be one. That night, Clara sent me an SMS. Are we able to meet? It's important. We met at a bar in the city that wasn't too busy. Clara looked worried as she played with her drink. What's going on? I asked. I thought you should know what's going on. Even though Andrea doesn't know I'm here. She is quite unhappy. It's not my problem anymore. I know, but Dorian is already displaying his true colors. Jealous and controlling. He looks at her phone and asks her about every male customer. He startled her last week by coming to what was supposed to be a business dinner. Once again, I don't see how this affects me. Clara let out a sigh. She's thinking about quitting her career since he doesn't like it when she works with male doctors. This guy is making her give up her job. She messed up. A big, dumb error that she won't acknowledge to because she's too proud. You know why she really left that message in your birthday present? She was too scared to talk to you. She realized she might not be able to tell you in person if she had to. What do you want me to know? I know you cared about her even though you did everything. Cared a lot. Dorian only sees her as a trophy. She thought about it for a second. And because I've always thought you deserved better than how she treated you. I said softly, thank you for your concern. But I'm going on with my life. I'm actually okay. Sure, she said hurriedly and turned away. I just wanted you to know. As we finished our beverages, I started to wonder why Clara had really called. Was she worried about her sister? Or was there something else going on? No matter what, my mind was racing. I have friends now that I never thought I would have. Joseph at the hospital, Stephanie with her inside knowledge, and maybe even Clara, who is close to Andrea's new life, as well as whatever Thomas would tell his wife to keep her from finding out about the cabin images. I started to carry out my plan over the next few weeks. Took time, which was fine. Since I wasn't planning a wedding, I had a lot of time. First, I got back in touch with Craig, a college classmate who now worked for the state medical board. I gently brought up some worries I had over dinner regarding a doctor I knew who might have problems with prescriptions. I told him that I wasn't asking him to do anything wrong. I was just curious about how to report someone who was acting suspiciously. Craig said that concerns, especially those about drugs, were handled seriously and would lead to a review. He told me how to file without giving my name. He warned you to make sure your worries are real. False reports can have disastrous consequences. Then I had dinner with Stephanie again to talk more about Dorian's strange conduct. At first, she didn't say much, but after a while, she did. She had found oxycodone that wasn't prescribed to him. When she asked him about it, he told her some BS about requiring it for an old sports injury, but she realized it was too many pills for anyone to need. She also saw strange patterns at work. He would sometimes be really wired and concentrated. He would sometimes go for half an hour and come back looking completely different, calmer, and with pupils that were very small. Signs that are well known. When I asked her if she would make an official statement, she quickly said no. She was about to lose her job, but she basically said that if someone told the correct people, she wouldn't be mad. In the meantime, I spent more time with Clara. She would text me about Andrea's terrible relationship with Dorian, and then we would meet for coffee to speak. She told me that Dorian was having a huge housewarming celebration at one of these get-togethers. Andrea had officially moved into his $1.2 million mansion in the wealthy part of town. Clara rolled her eyes and told me that Andrea wanted everyone to see how great her life was. Their dad was going to the hospital because important people would be there, but their mom didn't want to go. When Joseph texted me, everything fell into place. Dorian has a significant surgery planned for the Monday after his big party. The senator's daughter, the news coverage, and the timing were all ideal. The night before the party, I sent an anonymous complaint to the medical board about my worries that Dr. Chamberlain might be impaired while treating patients. I included specific dates that Joseph helped me find when the medicine inventory didn't match the usage logs. I put in just enough details that might be checked to get a serious look. Then I called a friend who works security at the hospital and gave him $200 to let me know if anything intriguing happened during Dorian's shifts the next week. I didn't go to the party, but Clara texted me images all night long. Andrea looks great in a luxury dress. Dorian is in charge of his coworkers. Andrea's dad is getting along with the hospital's top brass. Everything looked perfect, costly, and something to be jealous of. It was just what I wanted to see. The higher they went, the harder they would fall. Dorian did his famous surgery on time the Monday after the celebration. On the outside, everything went perfectly. What didn't get reported was that all of the surgical personnel had to take a random drug test that morning. This was part of a new hospital policy that only touched Dorian's team for whatever reason. On Tuesday morning, my security friend texted me. Dr. C arranged an emergency meeting with the administration and left looking angry. Joseph said on Wednesday that Dorian was very obviously not at the hospital. The rumor mill was going strong by Friday. Dorian had been put on hold while an investigation was going on. I waited. Being patient was important. Clara called me in a panic the next Tuesday. Victor, everything is going wrong. Dorian's license has been taken away. Something concerning drugs. Andrea is going crazy. I said, that's too bad. in a calm manner. How is she doing with it? She doesn't want to believe it. Keep emphasizing that someone is attempting to ruin him and that it's a mistake. Clara stopped. She also learned about more than one of his ex-fiancés. There were 3, not 2. He sounds like she's waking up a lot. It gets worse. The board of the hospital will meet tomorrow to talk about whether or not to end his contract. His malpractice insurance is threatening to drop him because of the suspension and the investigation that is still going on. He'll lose everything if he loses his job. I was done. Yes. And Andrea is on his lease now, but she isn't in any of his accounts. She gave this connection her all. She even used her funds to help pay for their furniture. I almost felt bad. Almost. 2 days later, the other shoe fell. Dorian was fired. The medical board was still looking into the case, and Clara said that he was getting worse and worse, blaming Andrea for his bad luck, drinking too much, and being verbally abusive. She finally sees him for what he is. Clara told me over yet another coffee meeting, but she's trapped. She's afraid to leave because he's becoming unstable, and she has nowhere to go anyway. Dad offered to help, but she's too proud to admit she was wrong. I nodded sympathetically while inside. I thought, karma's a bitch. That night around 2 a.m., my doorbell rang repeatedly. Through my newly installed security camera, I could see Dorian swaying on my porch, clearly drunk. I didn't answer. He rang again, then started pounding on the door, shouting incoherently. I calmly called the police, recorded the entire incident, and filed a report the next morning. 3 days later, my mailbox was damaged. The day after that, I noticed one of my truck tires was slowly losing air. I didn't react, just quietly upgraded my security system, added cameras covering every approach to my house, and documented everything meticulously. The next evening, my doorbell rang around 9 p.m. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I checked the security camera, I saw Andrea standing there. Makeup streaked down her face. I debated not answering, but curiosity won out. "What do you want?" "Victor, please, I need to talk to you," I said into the intercom. "Just 5 minutes." Against my better judgment, I opened the door but stayed in the doorway, blocking entry. Andrea looked terrible. "You were right," she blurted. "About everything. Dorian's not who I thought he was. He's been lying about everything. His finances, his past, even his medical issues. And this concerns me." "How exactly?" "I made a horrible mistake. The worst mistake of my life." Her voice cracked. "I had everything with you. Stability, honesty, real love. And I threw it away for what? Some fantasy that fell apart in months. Again, not seeing how this is my problem. I need help, Victor. Dorian's losing everything. His license might be permanently revoked. The condo is going into foreclosure because apparently he's been leveraged to the hilt. He's drinking constantly, becoming scary. Last night, he shoved me into a wall. Sounds like you should call the police, not your ex. I started to close the door. Wait, she put her hand on the door. I have nowhere else to go. My parents are out of town and Clara's place is too small. I just need somewhere to stay for a few days until I figure things out. I laughed. Actually laughed. You're joking, right? You want to stay here after what you did? I know I don't deserve your help, but you're the only person who's ever truly cared about me. And I stop. I held up my hand. Just stop. The woman I cared about wouldn't have left a coward's note in a birthday gift. Wouldn't have taken family heirlooms out of spite. Wouldn't have moved in with another man without a second thought. I was confused. Dorian manipulated me. No, you made choices. Adult choices. Now you get to live with the consequences. Her face hardened, that familiar, entitled anger surfacing. So that's it. You're just going to leave me with nowhere to go after 4 years together. Funny how that works, isn't it? By the way, how's Dorian's career going? Heard he had some trouble recently. She stared at me, realization dawning. It was you. You reported him. I shrugged. Someone had to stop an impaired doctor from operating on people. Think of it as my public service. You ruined his life, his career, everything we had. No, his addiction and dishonesty did that. I just made sure the right people were watching at the right time. I leaned closer, and for what it's worth, I had help. Turns out there are plenty of people who've been hurt by you too. Clara, she whispered. She's been feeding you information. And that nurse Stephanie. People don't like being used and discarded. Andrea, something to keep in mind for your next relationship. The next day, Dorian showed up again, pounding on my door, clearly drunk at 11 a.m. I didn't bother opening up, just called the police and watched through the security camera as they escorted him away, threatening to arrest him for trespassing and public intoxication. I added the footage to my growing documentation file. Andrea tried a different approach, sending her father to negotiate. Thomas Whitfield looked uncomfortable standing on my porch. Victor, I understand there's been some unfortunate developments with Dorian's situation. Very unfortunate, I agreed. Addiction is a serious disease. Yes. Well, Andrea finds herself in a difficult position. She certainly does. He shifted uncomfortably. I'm aware that you and she have a complicated history, but she's in a vulnerable place right now. And as her father, I'm concerned about her safety and well-being. As you should be. I'm wondering if we could come to some arrangement. A temporary truce, if you will. I raised an eyebrow. What kind of arrangement? Andrea needs somewhere stable to stay until Dorian's situation resolves, or she can find her own place. Your house has the space and you two were close once. You want me to take in your daughter after she left me for another man? The same daughter who stole family heirlooms and claimed half my house despite contributing nothing to it. He had the grace to look embarrassed. I understand it's an unusual request. Unusual? It's delusional. I'm prepared to make it worth your while. Say $20,000 to let her use your spare room for a month or two. No strings attached. I stared at him. You're trying to buy me off to clean up Andrea's mess. I'm trying to protect my daughter. Where was this concern when she was destroying my life? When she was moving in with a man you knew was still married when they met? Thomas paused slightly. How did you know that Dorian was still legally married to his second wife when he and Andrea started dating? I did my homework, Mr. Whitfield, just like I looked into his prescription habits and professional misconduct. He was quiet for a moment. What do you want, Victor? Nothing from you or Andrea. I want to be left alone to rebuild the life your daughter shattered. As he turned to leave, I added, for what it's worth, Clara tried to warn her multiple times. You should probably start listening to your younger daughter. She seems to be the only one in your family with a moral compass. The next few weeks brought more desperate attempts at contact. Andrea sent tearful voicemails. Dorian, when he was sober enough, sent threatening texts that I documented and forwarded to his lawyer. Thomas tried again with a higher offer, $50,000 this time. I declined them all. Eventually, they all got the message. Andrea moved back to her parents' house, tail between her legs. Dorian, facing criminal charges for prescription fraud on top of his license suspension, reportedly left town. The perfect couple crashed and burned in spectacular fashion, leaving nothing but wreckage behind. Andrea's Instagram, once filled with perfect couple photos and luxury lifestyle shots, shifted to vague inspirational quotes about forgiveness and starting over. Her friends from the hospital slowly stopped interacting with her posts. Comment sections that were once filled with fire emojis and couple goals declarations went eerily quiet. According to Clara, Andrea had been crashing with different friends each week, wearing out her welcome each time with her neediness and drama before finally admitting defeat and moving home. Former colleagues stopped returning her calls. The pharmaceutical company where she worked placed her on administrative leave after Dorian's drug issues became public knowledge. They couldn't have a sales rep linked to prescription fraud, even by association. For a woman whose entire identity had been tied to status and appearance, it was the ultimate fall. As for me, I kept the house. Got that dog I always wanted, a rescue lab mix named Cooper. Started playing basketball with Joseph again. Fixed up my Tacoma with a new sound system and wheels. Max the cat eventually accepted Cooper. and the three of us settled into a comfortable bachelor routine. And occasionally I meet Clara for coffee just as friends for now. She's nothing like her sister, and that's the highest compliment I can give. The engagement ring sold. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just watching someone suffer. It's watching them realize too late exactly what they threw away and knowing that you finally moved on to something better. It's been 6 months now. Life has a weird way of working out. Cooper, my lab shepherd mix, is snoring at my feet as I write this. Max is perched on the armrest of my dad's old recliner, keeping his usual watchful eye. Best decision I ever made was keeping both of them. They don't give a damn about my earning potential or whether I drive the right car. Work is going well. Got promoted to project lead last month. The overtime I put in after the breakup actually paid off. As for Andrea and Dorian, the aftermath was even more satisfying than I expected. Dorian's license suspension became permanent when the investigation uncovered he'd been writing prescriptions using other doctors' DEA numbers. He's facing criminal charges and will likely never practice medicine again. Last I heard from Joseph, Dorian filed for bankruptcy and moved back to his hometown in Ohio. The $1.2 million house was foreclosed on and his Maserati repossessed in the hospital parking lot. A moment that apparently became legendary hospital gossip. Andrea tried to salvage her pharmaceutical sales career, but her reputation was tarnished by association. Plus, selling to doctors gets complicated when you're known for sleeping with one who lost his license for drug issues. She eventually found a lower-paying position at a smaller company, a significant step down from her previous role. Last week, I drove past her in my freshly detailed Tacoma with its new wheels. She was driving her dad's old Honda, a far cry from the Range Rover. Our eyes met for a second at the stoplight. I didn't react at all, just drove on. That moment seemed to hit her harder than any insult could have. Thomas had to deal with his own fallout. Turns out the cabin photos got leaked somehow, not by me, I swear, to his wife. She was furious that he'd been covering for Andrea's affair, especially since Dorian had been a family friend. According to Clara, their parents had the fight of the century, and Thomas spent a month sleeping in his office. Speaking of Clara, remember those coffee meetings? They've turned into dinner dates. We took things glacially slow, both of us hesitant for obvious reasons. But there's something genuine there that I never had with Andrea. Andrea found out about us 3 weeks ago when she stopped by her parents' place and saw us having dinner with them. The meltdown was epic. Accusations of betrayal. Screaming about how I was just using Clara to get back at her. The whole dramatic package. Clara, who I'd always seen as the quiet one, shut it down with 5 simple words. Not everything is about you. I've never been prouder of anyone. The irony isn't lost on me. Andrea threw away a solid relationship for a fantasy that imploded while I found something real with someone who was right there all along. Her parents have been surprisingly supportive of us. I think they see it as some kind of karmic balance. So that's it, Reddit. Thanks for reading. Now tell me, boys, how would you have handled it if you were in my